Hello everybody, welcome to Beer and Flickcharting. I'm your host David, and this is my second attempt to record episode number 4, because my first attempt was brought down by serious computer struggles, which caused me to have to scrap the whole thing. You didn't miss much, it wasn't a very good episode, and I gotta say, you're not missing much with this beer either. The beer today is Joseph's Brow Bohemian Style Lager. I found it at Trader Joe's. Once again, I should stress that this YouTube series is completely non-sponsored by corporate interests, craft brew or craft grocery store or otherwise. Yeah, here's the bottle cap too from this Joseph's Brow. Best thing I can say about it is it kind of tastes like beer. It tastes like it ought to come out of a can rather than a bottle. I think a bottle's getting a little too fancy for this beer. It was pretty cheap. Drinking it in a cool bottle, Circle. The pint glass rather, not bottle. I'm not drinking out of the bottle. The pint glass is from Circle Brewery, which is a local brewery here in Austin, and anything they make would go better in this glass than Joseph's Brow Bohemian Style Lager. But as you can see, I've made some progress through it, nevertheless. Alright, I'm here, you're here, computer's here, everything seems to be working. Let's get to it. Beauty and the Beast versus Angels with Dirty Faces. Now, just this very day, I posted a Beauty and the Beast Real Rumble to the Flickchart blog. Beauty and the Beast versus Little Mermaid I wrote about. Turns out that my answer to that matchup is against the Flickchart consensus. My favorite is the one with the lower global ranking. But you can go over to the blog and read about why I chose what I chose. In this case, I'll tell you that I'm going to go with Angels with Dirty Faces over Beauty and the Beast, because Angels with Dirty Faces is a great Jimmy Cagney movie. Jimmy Cagney and Pat O'Brien, and it's also got a young Humphrey Bogart. Well, fairly young Humphrey Bogart. It's a gangster movie, but it's one with a twist ending that you will be talking about and thinking about for years afterward. I don't know if twist is not the right word. It's not a twist ending. It's an ambiguous ending, and I really like that. And I like gangster movies. I like Jimmy Cagney. Of course, I like Disney too. I like animated. I like the Disney Golden Age. But Angels with Dirty Faces over Beauty and the Beast. Last versus E.T. the Extraterrestrial. Now, E.T. I think is where Steven Spielberg starts to go downhill for me. I didn't really like E.T. as a kid. I don't really like it now. Of course, it doesn't help that when I watched it most recently, I watched it in its updated version where I think he edited out some guns, and he also completely took out the puppet and made E.T. a CGI monster. Kind of like Yoda in the Star Wars prequels, except probably even worse. I think the CGI E.T. looks even worse than Yoda. It's dreadful, and it takes away any of the charm that the movie may have had, which in my opinion wasn't very much to begin with. Especially when little Drew Barrymore is not on the screen. I mean, she's cool, but E.T. didn't do much for me. Pan's Labyrinth, great movie, not a kid's movie by any stretch. Looks like one, looks like a young adult fantasy, but it's rough. That broken bottle scene, it's not really a spoiler because it comes like right at the beginning. Rough, but it easily beats E.T. Taylor of Panama versus Village of the Giants. I think I've talked about Village of the Giants. That's that MST3K thing with Beau Bridges and little Ron Howard. Taylor of Panama is a real movie, and it's going to beat an MST3K movie. Pierce Brosnan and Jeffrey Rush, two actors I like a lot. And I like understated, sort of realistic spy movies, and that's what Taylor of Panama is. Now, I don't remember anything about the plot, but I remember that I liked it. I probably have not seen it since 2001 when it came out. Never Say Never Again, the unofficial Bond movie, one of 3-ish unofficial Bond movies, versus Close Encounters of the Third Kind, prior to Steven Spielberg going downhill for me. Now, I don't like Never Say Never Again. I think that there is a real rumbles between it and Thunderball, which are based on the same book. They're both Thunderball. But, there was legal disputes. One of the screenwriters, yada, 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 ended up being able to make Never Say Never Again. I don't think it's good at all. Kim Basinger, regardless of Kim Basinger. Close Encounters, I think it's a great Spielberg movie. I love the misdirection of the matte paintings that do nothing. There's, Michael Okuda, of one of the Star Trek graphic designers, has written about that, or at least posted a link to it before, where you read about how Spielberg would set up a matte painting knowing that the audience would recognize it subconsciously or consciously as a matte painting and expect a special effect and then not give it to them. And it, sort of subverted expectations and all that. But nevertheless, Close Encounters has some great special effects and a great payoff. But you do wait for it, and as you wait, things build, and there's character dramas that character arcs that really work for me. I think it's a great movie. Easily beats Never Say Never Again. Space Mutiny. That is the MST3K movie with brick man meat and rock hard muscle, that riff, versus The Man Who Shot Liberty Valance. I've been over that before, not going to go over it again, just easily going to vote for it. The Trojan Women versus Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon. I think I've gone over The Trojan Women as well. The cast, look at the cast of Trojan Women. We've got Katharine Hepburn, we've got Vanessa Redgrave, we've got Irene Papas, who you can also see in, you may know her from Zorba the Greek, and The Guns of Navarone, in which her co-star was Anthony Quinn on both occasions. But in this one, it's all about these great actresses, and it beats Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon for me, even though I do love a good kung fu movie. I love a good martial arts movie, a good movie out of China. I'd like to rewatch it. That's one I probably have not seen it since the year 2000. High on my list of things I want to rewatch, but Trojan Women's going to win it. Unforgiven versus The Color Purple. Unforgiven. People talk glowingly about Unforgiven. To me, I don't really see what the big deal is about Unforgiven. I think it's Clint Eastwood doing it's sort of a wish fulfillment thing, as Clint Eastwood was starting to get older and starting to transition, into out of acting and more into directing, although he still did both for quite a long time. And hopefully still does, because I think he's a good director. I think he's a great actor. But I just don't see anything particularly special about Unforgiven. I like some of its actors. I like Morgan Freeman. I like Richard Harris. Is it supposed to be a revisionist thing? Is it supposed to be like, oh, the West was, even grittier and even more compromised than we already showed it to be in the 60s? I really don't see that much new about Unforgiven. And I feel like the final shootout would undercut any of that revisionism that would be there anyway, that even if it was supposed to be revisionist. I don't know what it's supposed to be. I don't think it's anywhere near one of the best Westerns. It doesn't even belong in the same conversation with the best Westerns. It's watchable. I think almost all Westerns are watchable. I'm going with The Color Purple. Now that is Spielberg once again. And it's post-E.T., so it is Spielberg on the downslope in my impression of Spielberg, in which Jurassic Park is a very strong blip on the positive side. Jurassic Park totally reverses that downward trajectory. But Color Purple, the plot is full of holes. It's kind of a mess. The characterizations are a little ham-fisted. Some of the situations that people get into, I can just live without, or wanted more from. It's going more for... It's a very strong polemic when the source material and the characters that he's working with are screaming at him to do something subtle. And Spielberg just can't do it. He was the wrong person to direct this movie, I feel. And yet, I think the source material, it's about a bunch of sort of black female friendships that, cross boundaries of propriety for the time period in which it was set. That material and some of the acting in it, including from Whoopi Goldberg and Oprah Winfrey, are stronger than anything in Unforgiven, and are strong enough to overcome what I think is weak conceptualization from Spielberg. We've had that Star Trek thing, and now it's up against Wall Street, another movie that I don't think is as good as its reputation suggests. I'm going to break with consensus on Wall Street. Not that I'm necessarily voting against it, I just want to say that other than Michael Douglas's Gordon Gekko and all of his greed is good, and all of his F-bomb dropping and all that's great. I don't think that the message is of any particular, it carries really a lot of weight with me. Maybe it would have in 1987, but I kind of doubt it, because in my opinion, Oliver Stone's messaging was always over the top. Compare Platoon to Apocalypse Now. Maybe, I'm sure, I know for a fact, there's people out there who like Platoon better than Apocalypse Now, but if you do, you're crazy. You've been drinking too much Joseph's Brow. And I haven't been drinking enough. Messaging of Wall Street is this heavy-handed for me. I think the Martin Sheen character especially is weak. This liberal lion, blue-collar union leader guy, belongs as the C-plot of a West Wing episode. He doesn't even get the B or the A plot treatment for me. But is Gordon Gekko strong enough of a character, and are his lines well written enough to beat what is not a movie? And to me, the answer is yes, even though I love Star Trek The Next Generation. Wall Street it is. And that jumped it up my chart. 19 plus 37. Oh, I can't do math. Okay, let's pretend it's 20 plus that's 57, but minus 1's okay, 56. All right, let me bump over. Let me write that down in my little side file here. Okay, 56-point jump for Wall Street. Movie I think is okay. The Island versus The X-Files. The Island, probably my favorite Michael Bay movie that I've seen. I haven't seen a lot. But it's okay. It's got Steve Buscemi in it, and it's got Ethan Phillips. Hey, there's a Star Trek connection. It's got Neelix from Voyager. He's like a orderly or something at the island cloning facility. Anyway, it's going to lose to the X-Files movie, of course. I've got a lot of nostalgia for the X-Files. I don't think either of the movies are great, and certainly after the first movie, the show was downhill fast. But my nostalgia is strong enough, and that first movie, I think, captured the spirit of the show well enough. Let me tell you one thing about the X-Files movie. Everybody knows this is one of the most famous glitches, I think, of that era in movies. But, the opening scene is like this bombing in a building in Dallas. And so it starts off with a city skyline, and it says Dallas, Texas, and in the background, very clearly, is this huge mountain range just stretching across the whole horizon. And I'm from Fort Worth, Texas, which is right next door to Dallas, and let me tell you, we're a day's drive from any mountains. You gotta go west 7 or 8 hours to see mountains. So that's always stuck with me, because I think I was in a theater, I'm sure, in Fort Worth when I saw this movie, and the theater just couldn't help themselves but laugh at that. But The X-Files beats The Island. Sorry, Michael Bay's best movie. The Man Who Would Be King, well, probably not his best, but best I've seen. The Man Who Would Be King versus Spider-Man. One of the only Spider-Mans I've seen. I might have seen the second one, but I'm so unsure of whether I did that it's not ranked. I know people say the second one's better. Good. A great comic book movie. It's easy. All comic book movies lose to The Man Who Would Be King, for me. All comic book loses to all Rudyard Kipling. Book it. Okay. Now, I'm a huge Miyazaki fan, a huge Ghibli fan. This is not a Miyazaki movie. Let's not even make that mistake. It's Ghibli, and it's a sort of a spin-off of Whisper of the Heart, which is a movie that Miyazaki wrote but didn't direct. It's not good. Stay away. But unless you're a completist. And French Kiss wins. Cat Returns is up against French Kiss. French Kiss is a great romantic comedy with Meg Ryan and Kevin Kline. Kevin Kline can do anything. That guy is good in everything, from Sophie's Choice, the darkest drama you'll ever see, to A Fish Called Wanda, one of the funniest farces you'll ever see, to French Kiss, one of the just the prettiest and funniest romantic comedies you'll ever see. Clever script, great performances. French Kiss is an easy winner. If you haven't seen it, go see it. Beats a Ghibli movie, which for me is a big deal. There's very few Ghibli movies that are not like right at the top of my chart, but The Cat Returns is one of them. Clouds of Sils Maria. Saw this earlier this year. I was nearly in tears by the end of it. Such a good movie. Now it's up against a heavy hitter. It's up against Ryan's Daughter, which is a David Lean movie I like a lot, which is a very well conceptualized integration of sort of a family drama on the one hand with political drama on the other hand, and the two intersect in very interesting ways. And there's this religious figure of a priest who's got just some great lines and great words of wisdom to end the movie on, where it ends on, I think it ends on a note of equally optimistic and pessimistic. The ending of Ryan's Daughter really, to me, is one of the greatest endings in film. It's got one of the best last lines, best last scenes in any movie. It's up there with the Italian Job, although it's not at all similar to that. But Clouds of Sils Maria, I really feel like this is a movie people are going to be talking about in 100 years favorably. It is the All About Eve of this century. For me, it's the best movie of this decade. It's only not the best movie of this millennium because the Lord of the Rings, Peter Jackson's Lord of the Rings movies came out at the beginning of the millennium, and for me, those are really good, great movies. Clouds of Sils Maria beats Ryan's Daughter. Star Wars Holiday Special versus The Island. Hey, we've got The Island again. That's true randomness at work. It'd be easy to say, oh, we just saw The Island, something's wrong. But, true randomness has runs, and especially when you've only got 817 movies, you're going to get repeats like that. Star Wars Holiday Special versus The Island. Would I rather watch the Star Wars Holiday Special right now? The answer is yes. I would watch it every day before I would watch The Island again. Not because The Island was bad, but just because The Island is totally inconsequential. Who cares about The Island? Nobody cares about The Island. But everybody likes to make fun of the Star Wars Holiday Special. And of course that's what you're going to be doing when you're watching it. You're going to be scratching your head thinking, why? And you're going to be falling asleep during the B. Arthur scene. And you're going to be laughing at the whole Chewie's family scene and that ridiculous box that his father Lumpy or whatever looks into. And you're going to be just rolling your eyes out of your head at Life Day and the Life Day song and Han Solo saying, what does he say to Chewie? It's something like, "You're my family too, Chewie," or just something like that. Oh, it's just the worst. It's the worst in the best way, and it easily beats Michael Bay's The Island. And that jumps it up the chart 13 places. So, 13-point jump. Okay. Nosferatu versus Final Fantasy. Final Fantasy was that CGI. It was, probably one of the first fully CGI movies, but, one that wasn't supposed to look like a cartoon. Look, I'm a huge fan of the Final Fantasy game series. Final Fantasy VI, that we called 3 in America, is still, for my money, probably the best, my favorite console game, hands down. Not my favorite game, because that would probably be Myst for the computer. But console-wise, Final Fantasy VI, 4, which we called 2, is just as good, almost. 7 is great. One of the best endings in any video game. Speaking of great endings, the ending of 7. Yeah, Final Fantasy is great. The movie was The movie was nothing. Nosferatu, one of the scariest movies. Max Schreck, vampire, whole deal, gets the win. That's the original Nosferatu, by the way, not the Werner Herzog one, for anyone who's listening to me but not watching. The Thief of Baghdad versus Swamp of the Lost Souls, which I have not seen. Thief of Baghdad versus The End of the Sixth Happiness. I briefly referenced The End of the Sixth Happiness in a Flickchart article I wrote about 10 stars who are turning 100 in the year 2015. One of which is Ingrid Bergman, who is the star of The End of the Sixth Happiness. And I recommend this movie for many reasons. One of which is that it's a good example of the pro-China, pro-Republican China, not pro-communist China, propaganda movies that were made, all from like the 30s to the 50s, when China was a big freaking deal politically in the United States. There's a lot of great movies in that vein. The End of the Sixth Happiness is not the best one of them. Probably The Good Earth is. But The End of the Sixth Happiness is a good one to see. Nevertheless, it's going to lose to a really fun Douglas Fairbanks movie. I love all those Douglas Fairbanks silent movies. And The Thief of Baghdad is one of the best. I love the special, I guess it's not a special effect, I guess it's a practical effect of him riding a winged horse. And he's like the horse is like riding along on top of like a Super Mario Brothers 3 cloud platform. You know, I mean, it looks like a fake cloud, but it's just a fun movie. Thief of Baghdad it is. I think I'll call it quits. I don't know how long I've been at it, but I feel like it's been a while. I'll just do this last matchup. The King of Kong, that great documentary about people who try to get the high score on Donkey Kong. Now, I had somebody at Amy's Ice Cream in Austin, Texas, tell me this movie was faked. I don't really know what he means by faked. But, you know, it's a very funny movie. And, you know, rings true to people who grew up with video games and who know what it's like to be on a good run in a game you can't save. And, you know, I've never been good enough at a game. No, I take that back. I probably have been good enough at a game to win competitions at it. That would be Star Wars Rebellion, which is a real-time turn-based strategy game in the mid to late 90s. I was really good at that game. Other than that, I've maybe never been as good at a game as these people are at Donkey Kong. It's really fun to watch people who are that good at something, and it's fun to have a good guy and a bad guy. I know documentaries can exaggerate things, and maybe they exaggerated something in this movie. But I think it wins what it's up against, which is Sabrina. Billy Wilder movie, Humphrey Bogart, Audrey Hepburn, William Holden. I like it. One of my least favorite Billy Wilders, though. One of my least favorite Audrey Hepburns. One of my least favorite William Holdens. One of my least favorite Humphrey Bogarts. So even though I like it, it's going to lose to The King of Kong. And I think that'll do it for this edition of Beer and Flick Charting. I've been your host, David. This has been a not that great Joseph's Brow, Bohemian, whatever. Better luck next time, eh? See ya.